All right, I'm preparing the stream. So I'll just do like a quick, general introduction, then Juliana will go, and then I'll introduce you, and then we can rock and roll from there. Awesome. Oops. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Q&A. My name is Noah. I am a junior communication major with a minor in English, and I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Today, I am joined by one of our residential assistants and one of our members from the housing staff. And today, we are going to be answering all of your questions on all about how to fill out the housing application and what housing is like here as a first-year student. So yeah, so I guess we can go around and everybody can just do a quick introduction and then.
Hi, my name is Juliana Maston. I am a junior double majoring in neuroscience, behavior, and genetics, and I am originally from Schenectady, New York.
Hey everybody, my name is James Buchanan. I'm the Assistant Director of Housing here at UNH that deals with occupancy and assignments. And I have my degree in forestry and biology from UNH, and I graduated in 1999. So I've been around for a while.
Great. So Juliana, if you just want to talk about a little bit about your experiences with housing, and then as an RA, and then I'll go. So.
Yeah, of course. So currently I am an RA or a resident assistant in Peterson Hall, which was built in 2007. It is such a beautiful building. I lived here my freshman year in one of the residential learning communities surrounding COLSA, so the College of Life Science and Agriculture. I lived here again in Peterson my sophomore year last year for 2 months before I was called up to be an RA in McLaughlin Hall, which is also a lovely building located right next to the gym, which is such a great location. And back in Peterson again. I love being an RA and just being a part of housing and just the residential community at UNH because you meet so many people. I love all of my residents. They're also great. They give me a laugh a lot, and I love being able to run socials and help foster an inclusive and welcoming environment. And I feel like that's so important, especially for first-year students, since outside of academics, I really feel like housing and residential life is like the next really big aspect, especially for those who are living away for the first time, like I did. And also living, I live 4 hours away in New York, like I mentioned. So this was a really big step for me. So I love being able to be a part of that experience for incoming students and current students as well.
Awesome. So yeah, so I've been living on campus here for my first 3 years. I lived in Williamson my freshman year, and that was a freshman only dorm. Coming from Pennsylvania, nobody from my graduating, I didn't really know anybody coming to UNH, but I had a lot of great experience with my freshman only dorm, getting to meet a lot of cool people, people I'm living with even now. Then going into my sophomore year, I lived in Handler Hall, which is also in the Cirques, and I had a suite style room, so got a bigger room, got my own bathroom. And now this year, I am also living in Peterson, and I live with a random roommate, guy from New Hampshire, very nice guy. And for me, 2 for 2 on random roommates, and I would highly just recommend. So yeah, James, if you want to take it away from here.
Sure. So Noah had asked me to join this group to talk a little bit about the first year housing application. And what I'll say to start with is the application is very similar to what Noah and Juliana filled out when they applied for housing. And then it'll be very similar to the process they went through to select housing. And so this year at UNH, we've decided to do a self-selection process. So as a student, you will select your space and you'll select your roommate. If you want to, you don't have to select a roommate. You can kind of go totally random and randomly pick somebody that's already assigned themselves to a space, or you can assign yourself to an empty space and allow somebody to randomly pick you. The application is really straightforward, very simple to fill out. It's going to collect demographic data, of course. There's a welcoming page. It'll talk about student accessibility services. So if you know that you're going to need an accommodation, it instructs you to make sure you reach out to Student Accessibility Services, or SAS, on campus, provides contact information there, talks about the potential for co-ed living options, and then it's going to bring you to our room and board agreement. The room and board agreement is really important. It's the document that is the agreement between you, and as much as between you, also the agreement with the university and what the university is going to provide. It outlines the housing expectations, and it also is really clear about just our policies, and it pulls out it's important information, and a lot of people just kind of glean over it, but it really requires you to take a peek at a couple parts of it, and it's important. We're going to ask for your contact information. We're going to ask for, if you choose to provide, your parent email, which is also something that's critical. We know that you're becoming independent adults, but we also are a university that has made a decision to actively engage with your parents. And sometimes parents can be really helpful because they'll get reminder emails, and they may be the folks that kind of poke you and say, hey, remember to do this. And sometimes that can be really helpful. Or if you don't want your parents involved, or you can choose not to enter that information. We offer an app within the application, and this is new for this year too. We understand that there can be some anxiety around roommates, and so we provide a roommate matching app that you can choose to use. And in the application, it's critical that you, as the incoming first-year student, fill it out. In the couple of years past, a couple of programs that I've been a part of, I was finding out that parents were filling this out. The application asks a couple of values-based questions, and those need to be answered by you. Your honesty in answering those questions are some of what we utilize to create matches. And there's data behind these questions that dates back to the 1970s, and that data is still really valid. They kind of check it every couple of years. And so we choose to utilize those questions, and we've had really, really good luck. We decided to go the route of self-selection because ownership is critical. And we know that when students have the ability to take ownership, and when they have the ability to select their space, and when they have the ability to select their roommate, your success actually tends to go up or get a little bit better. And so it's important that you answer those matching questions honestly, because that's what will be used in the roommate matching app within the application. And so you can literally click a button that says, yes, I'd like to use the service, and then boom, it pops a number of potential roommate matches on your screen. And you can click on those, and you can learn about those individuals. Their profile will come up, a little bit about themselves, how they answered their questions, and it shows you how well you match. And so in the box that asks you for information about yourself, we encourage you to put stuff in there that you want prospective roommates to know about. And that can be anything from the type of food you like, your interests. Are you into the outdoors? Are you into photography? The music you like? You can be as loquacious or vociferous as you want, or you can choose to share as little as you'd like. It's entirely up to you. But remember, folks are going to be looking at each other's profiles. And so if you can add a little bit more information in there, make it easier to find matches with each other, that's all the better. Within the application itself, it's going to ask you to select your meal plan. It's going to ask if you want to add any dining dollars. And then we have available on campus vacation housing. So we have halls that are open during the normal university break period. So the Thanksgiving break, the winter recess, and then spring break. And so if you know that you're going to need to remain on campus during those times, we encourage you to select housing within those vacation halls. It's very, very easy to do. And we ask about what your housing or community preference would be. And that's just another tool to help match with another student. So if you want to live in Divine Hall, it'll help you find another student that may want to live in Divine Hall, and just, again, try to help make those matches. In addition to all this information that I'm covering right now, very shortly, we'll have tons of information online. We'll have videos that'll walk you through the process. We'll have PowerPoint type presentations. It won't be PowerPoint, but presentations where it'll walk you through the process step by step. We'll talk about how you form a roommate group, how you merge a roommate group, and it'll talk about what it means to have a time slot. So our process is not first come, first serve. We encourage everybody to make sure that they have their applications in on time, which is May 1st. Our secret is the application doesn't close, but we do reach a point where we have to cut it off in order to run our process where students can select their rooms. So we highly encourage everybody to have their application filled out May 1st. You can go in and alter your application for probably the next 3 to 4 weeks if you need to make changes to the information that you provided. You have the ability to do that. Once your application is complete, the process isn't over. We then take everybody's application, and anybody who's filled out an application for on-campus housing, we will provide a time slot. And those time slots, like I said, it's not first come, first serve. It's completely random. And so if you turn your application in now, or you turn your application in on May 1st, you have the same chances of getting the time slot that you're going to get. It does not make a difference. It's completely random. And once your time slot opens up, you'll have the ability to hop back onto our website. It's called Portal X, or your housing portal. And you can hop in the housing portal at your allotted time slot. And if you formed a roommate group, and this is covered in the application, the individual who's going to choose the space is called the captain, and you'll decide that as you're forming your roommate group. The group captain will get whatever the best time slot that was assigned to either of the two individuals making up the roommate group. And at that time slot, you will actually go in and you can look at what's available on campus. If you've selected vacation housing, it will limit your search to the vacation housing halls. And there's quite a few. There's 8 or 9 vacation halls. There's plenty to choose from. And so at that point, you're going to go in, you're going to find the room that you like, and you're going to select it, and you're going to assign you and your roommate to the space and select that space. And it really is that easy. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's a super easy and smooth process. It's also important to understand and know that we're always available. During the summer, my area hires additional staff to staff. It's called the call center, because we want to make sure we can answer everybody's questions, make sure everybody's comfortable with the process, and to get everybody through the process. And so I know that was a lot and a little, but that's the gist of it, and I'm hopeful that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. We do have one question. It's not regarding, it's actually regarding the application. It's just about housing in general. And someone asks, are the suites co-ed?
That's a really good question. Any space on campus can be co-ed. Well, not any space. Many spaces on campus can be co-ed. You just have to work with our office and work within the application. The suites can be co-ed, yes.
Awesome, great. And then I just there was another question. So when first year students are looking to put in their top choices, how many like options like in choices are they able to like choose from? Or not choose from, but like are they able to list as like my top 3 or whatever?
Sorry, 1 second. So we generally ask for top 3 choices. But what everybody has to remember is that if you don't want to live in a hall, you don't select it. The reason why we're asking people to put their top choices in is because it's just another tool to help with roommate matching. It just sort of like can connect people based on that as well. It's not just the values-based questions that we're asking. It ties that in as well.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. So as of now, there aren't any more questions. If you want to talk, if you could talk about like maybe like transfer housing a little bit, if you know anything about that or how that really, yeah.
Sure, no problem. I will just say, actually, I just looked. You can add up to 8 preferences for residence hall preference, which is significant. We have 21 or 22 residence halls that first year students can select to live in this upcoming year. 4 of those halls are all first year students. And so for transfer students, we do have 2 transfer communities on campus. One is at Woodside Apartments and the other is in Gibbs Hall. And I'm not sure what else you'd like me to say about that, but we do have transfer students that utilize those spaces. It's a small community of people, and there's a lot of programming done around transfers, which is actually really, really helpful. The person who runs that process, her name is Rebecca Wintringer, and she's one of the assistant directors in housing as well. And students really tend to like that, like the programming, and it's when people come together from outside of the university, you're kind of looking for similar experiences. And so students who are transferring, they have that shared or similar experience, and that's like an easy initial connection to make with people. And it's a great way to make connections, to be a part of those communities.
Great. Awesome. Oh, great. So we do got a couple more questions coming in the chat now. Steve, we got one saying, what if the person you want to room with hasn't submitted their application by May 1st?
So if you know that you want to live with that person and you're friends with that individual or acquaintances with that person, reach out and say, hey, if we're going to live together, let's do this together. Let's get this taken care of. Remember, they have technically probably 2 weeks into May to get that application filled out. It truly is best to get your application in by May 1st. You don't want to run down to the wire and not have somebody have that application in, because it can make it tricky to form a roommate group if it's not in. So really, both applications have to be in order for that to be a possibility.
Great. And then we do have another question also about like requesting a roommate. Are you guaranteed to be with the roommate that you request?
You are, as long as that individual wants to live with you. So yes, you're going to select each other and you're going to form that roommate group. And then yes, you're guaranteed to have that as a roommate.
Awesome. Great. And then we do have another question here saying, what if I have like problems with my roommate? Like, what does it look like to like transfer out, not transfer out, but like, get a new roommate or move out or something like that?
So that's a really great question as well. And Juliana might be able to speak a little bit to that.
Yeah.
At the start of what I'll share with everybody is at the start of the year, the first week or two, we ask for patience with everybody to just sit tight. We have something that's kind of called a room freeze. If there's an emergency, we'll always make an accommodation to make sure that emergency is cared for. But we need time to make sure everybody who's supposed to be here is here, and to get through that process. Once the room freeze is over, you would work with your hall staff, you work with your hall director, and you would say, hey, can we look for a different space on campus? I'm having a little bit of a struggle with my roommate. Or more importantly, we hope that you communicate with each other and try to work through it first. If it really, really doesn't work, that's when you work with your hall staff to try to find a different space on campus. Our goal is truly to help students find that space that feels right so that you can be successful. That's truly what this is all about.
And I can add to that a little bit just from the RA perspective. As James said, the hall staff, you would work with them. If you are having a roommate conflict, as an RA, I am trained in dealing with conflict resolution, and one of those being how to deal with roommate conflicts. So I've had situations where I've had one of my residents come up to me and saying that them and their roommate, they just have different living styles, or they're just not getting along in certain aspects. And typically, they'll be like, I want to switch rooms. And we tell them it is a process that has to go through housing. So before we get to that step, why don't we sit down and talk about it? So typically, we'll either sit down with the two roommates individually, see their each perspective, and then try to bring them together to have a productive conversation about why they might be having the issue, see if they can solve it. And at the very beginning of the year, we have these things called the roommate contract or roommate agreement. And that's just a document that we have all residents fill out that have roommates. And so you typically fill that out together and just ask questions about, how you want the room to be, kind of similar to questions that they might have on the housing application when you're trying to find a roommate. And so just asking like, are you an early riser? Do you like having the room more clean? Things so that, you have kind of an idea of how you want to keep your space, how you want to live in the same space as well. So if there is a conflict, we'll bring that out too and talk about that. And if it's something that I can't solve, we'll typically go to the hall director, see if they can, try to resolve the conflict as well. And then in that case, if it can't be solved, that's when you would go through to housing as the next process to try to switch out of your room.
Depending upon the time of the year, it's actually the hall director who will work with you to move. So after that room freeze, the hall directors take over the spaces in the halls and they work with each other, because depending upon what's going on in each hall, the hall directors have a really good idea of what's available for spaces, and you work with your hall director to find a new space.
Sweet. Thanks. Thank you guys so much. I can just little story. It's like I've gone with random roommates twice now, and even before like the semester starts, you do get their name a little bit beforehand. You do get their name and their email beforehand. So both times I've gotten in contact with my roommates, gotten to know them a little bit. So that definitely did help like ease in my transition, into housing. So yeah, so it looks like we don't have any other additional questions. I would like to thank both of you guys for joining us today. Really do appreciate your time. If anyone does have any additional questions, feel free to email us at admissions.unh.edu. And then lastly, stay subscribed because we will be premiering a tour of our College of Health and Human Services on this YouTube channel tomorrow, April 13th at 6 p.m. EST. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
No, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So what Noah was talking about is our process from the past where housing would have actually assigned roommates and assigned spaces. So now as you're filling out your application, you can start reaching out to people really early on to try to get to know people and be like, hey, this looks like a great match on paper. And then you have the opportunity and you get the contact information right there and then, and you can reach out. You don't wait for housing to assign you a roommate or your space, right? You're going to select it and you have the opportunity to select your roommate. So it's just a little bit different and it's very exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it's definitely being able to know who you're going to live with, especially, for students who are coming from, maybe they've never been to New Hampshire before. This will be a great way for them to, get involved. So yeah, does anybody else wants to add anything like that?
We're doing our very best to run this process at the very, very end of orientation. And it is going to run the last week of orientation. But if you go to orientation, you have an opportunity to also meet people at orientation. We really are encouraging students. If you find on paper that person and you're like, wow, that'd be an awesome match, and you know that they're going to your same orientation, find that person. And then at orientation, if you happen to connect with somebody and you're like, yeah, this would be a great match, then that's your person. And you can go in the application and you can then find them and create a roommate group. We wish we could run our process after orientation takes place, but we are just unable to do that. So our process will run the very last week of orientation. But there is opportunity to meet people there.
Yeah, and for any student who is watching this and you do have any additional questions, I know James mentioned this a little bit earlier, but feel free to call the housing department, the housing office. They want to help you, and any questions that you have, they're there for you. And that's true for any department here on campus. If you have anything you want to know about UNH, contact them and they are more than happy to get you that information that you need. So yeah, well, perfect. Well, thanks everyone again for watching.